this video, Blackjack expert Henry Tamburin, who is the publisher of the Blackjack Insider newsletter, as well as the author of 7 books on casino gambling, gives details on the 5 most misplayed hands in the game of blackjack. And now, here's Henry Tamburin.
The number 5 most misplayed hand in blackjack is a pair of 9s against a 9. It seems logical to split 9s when the dealer has a small card, but most players have a hard time understanding why they should split 9s against a dealer 9. If you have an 18 and the dealer has a 9 up card, you're going to win 8 out of 20 hands. If instead you split those 9s, each of those 9s are going to win 9.5 hands on average for every 20 hands. So you're going to win 1.5 more times when you split your 9s against the dealer 9 rather than standing. So when you've got that pair of 9s against a 9, you should always split them. The number 4 most misplayed hand in blackjack is when you're dealt a 12 and the dealer shows a 3. There's a rule in blackjack: when you have a stiff hand and the dealer has a weak up card, in general, you shouldn't hit. You should stand. But in the case of a 12 against a 3, you really have to take a look at the percentages. If you look at your 12, there are only 4 cards that can bust you, and that's the 10, the jack, the queen, and the king. There are a total of 5 cards that will get you into the 17 to 21 safe zone. So there are more cards that will get you into a safe 17 to 21 than will bust you. The other reason why you should hit your 12 against the 3 is that the 3 is not such a weak card for a dealer as you would expect. If you compare the chance of a dealer busting with a 3-up card compared to 4, 5, or 6, he's got less chance of busting with a 3. So therefore, when you have a 12 against a 3, your best percentage play is to always hit that hand. The number 3 most misplayed hand in blackjack is a 16 against the dealer's 10. And there's no question that when you're dealt a 16 and a dealer has a 10, that is really a bad hand. No matter what you do, you're in a losing situation. But the most cost-effective play that you can make with that hand, assuming you don't have a pair of 8s now, we're only talking about a hard 16 against the dealer 10, your most cost-effective play is to surrender. When you surrender your hard 16, you're going to lose 50% of your bet. Now, why would you give up 50% of your money without a fight? I mean, most players really don't like to surrender because they feel that, you're waving the white flag and you're just giving in half your money to the casino. Well, the fact of the matter is, if you don't surrender, then the other playing options, the probability of you losing is going to be slightly greater than 50%. So obviously, it's much better to lose 50% of your money by surrendering versus standing or hitting and losing slightly more than 50%. So the best play to make with a hard 16 against a 10 is to surrender. Now, what if the casino doesn't offer the surrender rule? Now your fallback position is to hit your 16. You'll lose slightly less compared to standing. But there's one exception to that rule, and that is if your 16 consists of 3 or more cards. For example, suppose you're dealt a 7, a 5, and a 4. You have a hard 16, but you've got 3 cards, and you've got some small cards in that hand. Because you've got some small cards, the odds shift slightly from hitting that hand to standing. Why? Because you've removed some of those small cards from the deck. And if you were to hit that hand, the fact that you've removed some of the small cards that you would like to have That fact shifts the odds slightly from hitting to standing. So the bottom line with a hard 16 against the 10 is you should always surrender. If that's not available, then you should hit. And if you have a 3 or more card 16, then you should always stand. The number 2 most misplayed hand in blackjack is a soft 18 against the dealer's 9 or 10. Most players believe that when they have an 18, that's a strong hand and they shouldn't mess with it. They should always stand. Well, think about this. If the casino gave you an 18 on every one of your hands for the rest of your life, you would die a loser. In blackjack, an 18 is just not good enough. So when you have a soft 18, that's an 18 with an ace counted as an 11, you have an out, and that out is to hit. So if we look at some percentages with a soft 18 just against the dealer's 9, I'll show you what I mean. If you stand on that soft 18 against the dealer's 9, you're going to win 8 out of 20 hands. If instead you hit the soft 18 until you either get the soft 19, hard 17, or you bust, you're going to win 9 out of 20 hands. So you're going to win one more hand out of every 20 when you hit soft 18 against the 9 versus standing. So the best play when you have a soft 18 and the dealer shows a 9 or a 10 is you should always take a hit. The number 1 misplayed hand in blackjack is when you're dealt a pair of 8s against a dealer 10. I see this hand misplayed more often than all other hands. Why? Because a player feels that the dealer has a strong up card. They're already in a losing situation when they have a pair of 8s, and now they're afraid to split them because they're afraid they're going to lose 2 bets instead of 1. And it's true that the 16 against the 10 is the worst hand you could have in blackjack. You're only going to win 23% of the time. However, when your 16 consists of a pair of 8s, you have an out, and that out is to split the 8s. Because when you split the 8s, you're starting a hand with an 8, and your chance of winning when you start with an 8 against the dealer's 10 is 38%. So you're increasing your chances of winning from 23% up to 38%. Therefore, you should always split your 8s against the dealer's 10. If you want to learn more about me and my books and newsletter, you can either go to my website, www.smartgaming.com, or www.bjinsider.com.